Today is Monday, June the 14th, and you'll remember on Friday I said that I had sold quite a bit of stuff and I was at 52% cash. So did I make a mistake? I'm going to talk about that. Going to cover the stocks that I sold and see what happened to them today. See if there's any technical indicators that show that I was wrong. And we're also going to look at Vodafone, which Zach asked about in the comments several days ago, and I forgot. Vodafone is an interesting stock, and he spotted it based on some extraordinary options activity, and I'm going to walk you through how he spotted that, and then we're going to take a look at the stock from a couple of different angles, like we usually do when we look at new stocks. Anyways, the McClellan oscillator is still doing this. See, it's still churning, but looks like it did move down a tiny bit today, but it's churning. And as I said on Friday, this churning before has led to market drops 3 times. So there's that. The summation index, which is just adding the McClellan oscillator number onto the previous day's summation. So on positive days, when the advancers are higher, when the McClellan index is positive, the number goes up. When it's negative, the number goes down. And you can see that we're in a trend upwards. I find it difficult to spot how useful that information is here. If I can figure this out, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, let's just look at charts, which we're more used to doing. Okay, the Dow Jones. Let's just go double check here, and let's look at FinViz.
There's going to be no further pressure. Oh. Is that buy-in to the Fed?
Certainly didn't want to hear that.
My next chart, Pratt.
And let's go back to FinViz homepage. And you can see the Dow dropped today. Decliners led advancers. That wasn't the case midday, so it just continued to do not well. NASDAQ continues to outperform, and remember we pointed that article out from 2 Fridays ago from McClellan himself, who talked about the ratio of the NASDAQ to the SPX. S&P 500 was down, but look at the volume in the Dow and the S&P, but the NASDAQ had good volume, so the technology stocks did well, communication stocks did well, everything else not so good. So the Dow Jones had this kind of a day. We did say that we were going to look for a movement down to where the 50 and the cloud intersect. Looks like that's happening. And look at the Chiku span. The Chiku span has not managed to stay above the candles. So that prediction might come true. The NASDAQ, however, now has made its double top. That's pretty strong. So what does that mean? Look at the Chiku span here. Let's see, the Chiku span, or the 50 moving average is not extended. So let me just refresh this. There's the 50 moving average now, which is in the cloud. It had hit the bottom of the cloud. Anyways, NASDAQ double topping. When the other markets double topped, what did they do? They pulled back. The S&P, let's bring this in a little bit. We talked about the S&P Chiku span staying above the candles, made a new high today. Its double top really occurred back here. There's one top, there's another top, but it's not really a double top. It's just the continuation of a flat top because there's not much range there. But we're still calling for a move down to touch the cloud if the way we analyze stocks is correct. Now I sold out of Apple, and look what happened to Apple. Stopped at the bottom of the cloud, and where's the Chiku span? Moved above the candles inside the cloud. Was I wrong on Apple? Yes. In the short term, I was wrong on Apple. I kept my IBM, it pulled back. I kept my NEO stock, it moved up. It found its high of the day right here, so the Chiku span was not quite rejecting off the bottom of the flat, top of the flat cloud, inverted cloud. Now I sold half of my Square. Square had a big day today. I only made half of what I could have made if I didn't sell both of them off, but it is still running into resistance. This is a very weak area of the cloud right here. Could we see Square move right through that weak resistance area by Friday and end up above the cloud? Well, we could. Where's the Chiku span? The Chiku span is right here in that candle. So let's see where it ends up tomorrow. But after a big day like today, we know that this stock has volatility, lots of volatility. It can have big green days and then suffer with some red days, as we saw here and here, here and here. So stock of still volatility. Abbott, I did let my stock get taken away at 115, finished today at 115.40. I didn't buy it back. Going to wait and see. We still have the 50 moving into the cloud there too, like we do on a couple of our other indexes. So now let's look at Vodafone. And what did Zach notice on Vodafone? He took a look at the options on Vodafone, which today when I took this picture was trading at 1863. Now this is a stock that trades on the London Stock Exchange, but has reflective shares that trade here as well. They used to own a portion of Verizon many years ago. They sold that. Now they're literally just a European, African, Middle East kind of telecommunications company. Still lots of opportunity. Look at their news. There is some news there. I'm going to flash on that in a second. But look what Zach noticed. Look at the October 19s, which are trading between 61 and 71. Very low volatility, 23%, as compared to September's, which is 40. Well, that's a 14. So it's all very low volatility. But look at this, 116,000 contracts open interest, which just dwarfs anything else. If you look at the prior month, at the 19s, you've got only 6,000, 1,600 at the 20. But in July, we don't have any. So somebody's expecting something to happen in October, and that's what tipped Zach off. So the next thing we want to look at now is searching a little bit on the internet. Let's look at tip ranks. Tip ranks is saying the media buzz, nothing. Media sentiment is starting to get a little bit high over the last 7 days. The news score is sort of lower than the sector average. The stock analysis, an 8. It's a moderate buy. However, it only has one analyst following it, one analyst. So there's really not a lot there. It's Andrew Lee, who's got a success rate of 61%, not bad. Average return 5%, not one of the top analysts. But he sees a 43% upside, and you would have to read more about him. The fly's not going to tell you very much, but do some research and find out why he thinks this is going to move up. Now let's look at the news section. We had this big drop happen. This is what chart here? This is a yearly chart. Yes, we had a big drop here happen in May. And don't know if that's earnings, but there was some bad news that happened. I just can't read it because it's a article that comes out of Barron's. Maybe I've got it here. Here's where you can read about Vodafone, the company. It's losing money over the last 2 quarters. Revenue is flat to dropping off. So is there an acquisition? Probably. Yahoo says that here's why shares fell. So here's why they fell on May 17th. If you have a subscription to Barron's, or if you want to look somewhere else to try to find out why the shares fell, that would be interesting. But now, strictly from a technical basis, let's take a look at Vodafone. And we'll look in the new tab here. And here is Vodafone. I mean, this looks like a strong stock, doesn't it? But we're only looking from October 2020. Now, remember there was an article earlier that said something about its long-term movement. So let's move out a little bit. Let's expand the chart, and not looking so hot anymore, is it? This is a stock that has really suffered since 2018. Had a little bit of a move up, then a big drop down, is struggling to regain. If we look at just today, we can just most recently we see cloud support. Cloud support was important here. Cloud support was important here. Cloud resistance was important here. Cloud didn't mean anything right here as it was powering through that cloud. The cloud resistance mattered here. Didn't matter, well, cloud resistance mattered here, and then it just shot one day right through the cloud. Maybe earnings. Cloud resistance was important here. So all this tells you that Vodafone is sensitive to the technicals that trade around the cloud. Let's go back and let's zoom out. And let's look at the bigger chart, and let's look at Fibonacci's. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of the cluttered chart. Let's just look at basics, no studies. By the way, stochastics show that on the short term, it's a swing up. On the long term, it might be moving down. So let's just take a look at that. Let's draw a Fibonacci here. From here to, well, we could take it here, but this is a double bottom here. Let's just see what this gives us. And let's just make sure that we've captured all of what we'd like to capture. No, we haven't, have we? So we really should be doing this here, which is pretty much a double top, and using this green line perhaps as our bottom. We had one here, some here. So let's just take a look at Fibonacci's there and assume that everything else was sort of an anomaly. What kind of Fibonacci's do we see here? Let's draw these to the left. And let's look at how good these Fibonacci's are. Well, 38, support here, support here, support here, support here. I'd say that's a good Fibonacci. The golden ratio is 61.8. Didn't quite work here. It did work here. Did work here. Struggled here. I'd say the 61.8 is a good Fibonacci, and maybe the 78.6 is too. Now there's other Fibonacci's that you could look at in here, not just the one that goes back to 2007. That's a big range. So that's a good Fibonacci to take a look at, but we should also be taking a look at this one. And let's look at the whole one there, and let's just change its color. Now I'm going to go back to ratio presets. I'm going to do red. And I'm going to extend these to the left. And do we have good Fibonacci's here? Well, let's look at this 38.2. Well, certainly not here. Maybe here. But that's before. So we're only looking at this area here. Not really. 50? Not really. 61.8? Not really. 78.6? No. That's not a good Fibonacci either. So the Fibonacci's are not the story. The story is that someone sees Vodafone out in October as something attractive enough as to what? Are they buying or are they selling? Well, that we don't have that information when we look strictly at the options, do we? We don't know if they're bought or sold. We'd have to look at the options that day. We'd have to have a tool that would allow us to look back on the options, try to find out when that activity happened and if they were bought near the ask or sold near the bid. That would give us an idea. But it doesn't look like somebody was selling to gain any premium. 61 cents is not a lot of security. So these are probably not sold. Take a look at Vodafone tomorrow. For $61, you can participate with a fraction of 100 shares. The delta on it is 42. So when you buy one contract, it's trading like 42 shares. When you, if you buy 10 of them, you risk $610, but you're trading like you had 420 shares. I think it's worth a try. It's worth the risk.